So guys, you're very welcome back to the Connolly Motor Group Podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Finbar Cronin, and today I'm delighted to be joined for a very special episode by former Mayo senior football captain, two-time All Star Dermot Flanagan. Dermot, you're very welcome to the Connolly Motor Group Podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you on, Dermot, because you actually have a very special event coming out this week. It's taking place at the weekend. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Mayo Oncology Unit cycle that you're fundraising for at the moment?
Yeah, so, and little did I know when I set this up that Mayo would be playing Dublin on the first day of the cycle. But let's go backwards a little bit. In December 2017, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, blood cancer. I underwent treatment in 2018 under the care of Professor John McCaffrey, whose father-in-law is from Mayo. And I'm glad to say that with early detection, I'm in full remission from cancer 3.5 years later. And the usual bumps and bruises on the journey with cancer, treatment, diagnosis, treatment, all the anxiety that comes, will the body respond, and all this kind of stuff. And I've gone through that journey. I'm very grateful. I'm one of the lucky guys. Others have not been so lucky. It also is 25 years since a band of brothers called the Mayo Team of 96 and 97 did some good on the battlefield of sport. We reached 2 All-Ireland finals, and we've great memories, a great group of guys. We've never done anything in a real collective sense since, and indeed we really haven't had a get together since. So I came up with the idea to give something back, that we would cycle around our home county, visit every GA club, the 49 that are in it, over 8 days, and raise money for the oncology unit of Mayo General Hospital. And I've got all the support of the lads and indeed the management. People will fondly remember John Mahan as manager, Peter Ford, Tommy O'Malley, and our Dublin-based trainer, Shamie Rogers. And so we're all getting together. I'm doing the 8 days. Most of my teammates are joining me for a day or two. We're cycling around morning and afternoon, some morning sessions, long one out to Belmullet, over 8 days. And we have a GoFundMe page to raise money. And the cycle is acknowledged by the Mayo County Board. And I'm delighted with the sponsorship and support of the Connolly Motor Group.
Brilliant. And on behalf of the Connolly Motor Group, we're thrilled to support such an amazing fundraiser, Dermot. And I suppose as well, in preparation for this, what type of training have you had to do yourself? Have you been flat out the last couple of months getting all road ready?
Yes, and like any proud sportsman, you do some training in the background just to get yourself ready. And I've been training for about the last 3 months. I was a very keen cyclist before I got sick, but the last few years, for obvious reasons, didn't perhaps get back to it the way I wanted. And also perhaps it's a response in some respects to the COVID as well. You know, all of us have been affected, and this is a message for everyone. I don't think we're out of the woods in terms of the effect COVID has, not just on us, but on young people as well. So I saw an opportunity. I found January to April very challenging. Short days, long nights, not a lot happening. So it was an opportunity to get a little bit of fitness back. I've lost 0.5 stone in weight. My preparations have gone well. Got myself a new bike, which I was delighted with, and I've been quietly doing 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and getting myself ready. There's also some interesting thing. You have to make sure you have the right equipment, and that's important too. I've got great hints and tips from cyclists who would know more about sitting on a saddle for a long, long time. So endurance cycling, it's all about getting used to being on the bike for 3 to 4 hours a day. And all the little tips I've got have been great from friends and cyclists, how to get you through the day.
Brilliant, brilliant. And best of luck with that. And I suppose as well, Dermot, if there is anyone listening to this that wants to, I suppose, get out on the road and cheer you on, will there be a timetable put up on the Facebook page about where, roughly speaking, where people can kind of show their support for it?
Yes, there will. And one of the things I want to emphasise is the cycle is open to everybody, while the team of 96 and 97, in a sense, are taking the lead. And this question was asked of me. And firstly, to say, while we have a GoFundMe page for donating, it's the GoFundMe cycle for Mayo Oncology Unit. To register for the cyclist, and I know that there are local clubs around Mayo who want to join us. It's eventmaster.ie, and if you go into Cycle Ireland, you can register for the event. It costs €10. That's mainly for insurance purposes, but it's also important because the Gardaí want to know the general numbers. Superintendent Joe Doherty is who we played football with Mayo. He's looking after the safety elements. So delighted to say we're going to have a Garda motorcycle on day 1 and day 8 to guide us, to start us off, and to make people aware that we're out there on the road, because cycling, has its own dangers. We have the Connolly Motor Group Volkswagen Transporter emblazoned with the GoFundMe page, and that's going to be with us as well. My brother John is a retired pilot and very keen on safety. He's going to be he's our safety officer for the week. But we do want to encourage people. We hope that some individuals in clubs will join us for even the trip from their club, seeing us off or bringing us home to their club. We'll stop in each club. We'll have a meet and greet. On a fun note, I'm going to go out onto the pitch of every club and kick a ball over the bar with my son Jack, who's 16 and has hopes for playing at the high level as well. And at least I can say that I might be the only man, along with my son, who's kicked a point in every pitch in Mayo.
Brilliant. Well, I think that'll definitely be a record if you are the first to do it. There might be a few others now claiming that as well, maybe, but you never know.
No doubt.
And I suppose, Dermot, you touched on it there. Your son has aspirations to play with Mayo GA. I suppose, reflecting on your time captaining the team for all those years and playing with the team, I think you're the second most capped player for Mayo. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, and I think probably at this stage, with the backdoor system and the success of recent years, I think my great friend and Ballaghaderreen teammate Andy Moran has probably passed me by at this stage, which I'm very happy for another Balla boy to do that. Probably others as well. In my time, of course, there was no backdoor system, so I had 123 official games. James Allen overtook me, but I suppose you touched on something that is an interesting thing. I think of the 50-51 All-Ireland winning team, I think the only other son I don't think there's no other son from the 50-51 team, as far as I'm aware, who had a big career with Mayo. And my ambition as the son was to emulate the father. And I played in the same number of All-Irelands as my father. He has 2 winners' medals. I've 3 runners. But in that sense, I'm very proud of that tradition. And it was something that I loved. But more importantly, the minute I started playing for Mayo, the people of Mayo recognised me in my own right. And I think the encouragement for all sons is sometimes we find it difficult to emulate a famous father, whether it's selling cars or playing football or whatever. But I suppose if you look at my own career, I worked hard, I enjoyed it. But I think the people of Mayo were very good to me. And recognised me, and that's a great thing. My own son, when I was sick, he had the opportunity. We're members of the club in Ballaghaderreen, and we're also members in Dublin, but he played 5 games for Ballaghaderreen in 2018, and that was a very special moment, and a lot of people. And the lovely thing is he got a great welcome, and he's Jack Flanagan in Ballaghaderreen, and he's Jack Flanagan in Clontarf, and it's a lovely feeling. The lads gave him a great welcome, and they looked after him, and that's something that's very important.
Well, that's great to hear, Dermot. And from my own dealings with the Mayo people, they seem to be absolutely mad about football, and anyone that kind of really wants to get involved is very much welcomed with open arms. And I suppose from an outsider's point of view to Mayo, what is the love of football? Why is there such a spirit with it? Even in the fan base, they're just die-hard GA football fans in the county. Is there a specific reason you can see with that, or is it just something in the water up there?
I do, and something close to my heart, because I've spent a life as a sort of travelling up and down the road from Dublin to Mayo. All of my cultures, all of my background. I'm told by my parents that my language was very unparliamentary when I was told as a 5-year-old that we were moving to Dublin. But from the age of 8 or 9, I started going back home to Ballyhaderreen. As in my teenage years, I loved my summers down there. And for some reason, I always wanted to go back. And I suppose what I'm really saying is, even though much of my life was brought up in Dublin, the people who came to visit me were Paddy Prendergast, Eamon Mongie, Porrick Carney of that great team of 50-51. So my life growing up was all about the culture of Mayo. And I suppose in a sense, so many people from Mayo were the diaspora, as they call it, were all over the world, but we share a bond. Sometimes our parents and grandparents made enormous sacrifices to get us educated. And a lot of people, my own grandparents, Stanny and Annie Flanagan, were the primary school teachers in Turin, which we'll visit on the first day. They educated people almost knowing they'd leave the village. But, you know, so many people, I had a lovely conversation with somebody in Dublin. They remembered my grandfather teaching them. And, you know, people made a lot of sacrifices, well knowing that they'd leave the small farm or small village. But when you think around the world, how many Mayo people made great achievements in life. And yet, for all the achievements in life and the successes of people, the bonds of the village, the bond of where we're from. And I suppose for us, Mayo football has been a common calling, something that has always bonded us. And one thing I love about Gaelic games is it doesn't matter what your status is in life or whatever. If you have a love of the game, it brings people together. And I think that for me is very special. I've had the privilege of spending time with Mayo teams in England, in America, and everywhere we go, the Mayo people are so proud of their origins, so proud of meeting us, and in a way thanking us for representing them. And the excitement, you know, when I started playing in '85, there hadn't been much success for 30 years. There'd only been 3 Connacht titles in 30 years. Every other year, we were all going to Dublin for All-Ireland semi-finals. The cousins in Dublin had to get out of the beds. They had to put the mattresses out because the cousins were coming up from Mayo. When you got to Ballyhaderreen, there was a big sign, last one leaving, turn out the lights. So that sense of, you know, coming together. And somebody asked me one time, what was one of your memories of playing? And I remember the 3 All-Irelands, the noise of the fans when we went out onto the field. That's that sort of raw emotion. And I think really what people love is that getting up there to Dublin, being up there at that level and representing them and all that. It's a lovely feeling.
Absolutely. I can only imagine what that's like walking out on the pitch for the All-Ireland final. It must be like awe-inspiring, goosebump driving. And I suppose the current crop of players are gonna have that soon enough, hopefully. I suppose they're going to be facing Dublin at the weekend. Dermot, I suppose they haven't had the best record against Dublin over the last few years. Can you see them kind of going that step further this weekend? And I suppose what do you think they have to do a bit different this time to get over the line?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say is those games the margins were so tight in the last sort of 7 or 8 years. I mean, we had probably the narrowest margin we had was we were 4 or 5 points up against Meath. They came back to draw level and they beat us by a point. I remember those games that you look back, there were maybe 3 or 4 moves worth of difference. And what I would like to see, firstly, to compliment James Horan and his team, to bring through the young players who've come through at the moment has been, and I won't mention any of them, but we all know who they are because it would be disrespectful. But the way in which the younger players have come through has been phenomenal. And if you look at the second half against Galway, the way in which some of the young players played reminds me a little bit of Jim Gavin and his team took a team that won an All-Ireland under Pat Gilroy, and they added the young guys and it raised the standard again. And for me, my wish is that firstly, you always want as an individual to show up on the day and leave nothing behind. That's the first thing, to maximize your input. Secondly, the way in which they played in the last 20 minutes against Galway, to me, that's the level that they're capable of playing at. And as you go up the line, you need to play at that level for longer in the game. And then, as my late father would have said, winning football games is a fairly clinical exercise. You analyze the situation. You always hope that the first 10 minutes that will be a nip and tuck, but that nothing harmful. You'd always hope there are no goals in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And psychologically, you want to begin to plant seeds of doubt in the opposition, no matter who they are, Dublin, Kerry. So with that level of performance and the way in which those young players have come through, I can tell you from my own level of coaching at reasonably elite level, at teenage level, the level that the guys are at is just simply incredible. And what I'd be saying is, I think they know that they're that good. And you always think as a player in your day, imagine if the fella coming after me is as good as me or perhaps better. And I think there's a real standard in those lads now, and particularly the young guys. And then you have the beauty of the older, more experienced fellas. And they're going to feed off this young, youthful energy. As the likes of a Bernard Brogan did in Dublin, he'd won his All-Ireland. Suddenly these young guys come along and he remains part of it. Fantastic. So you have Aidan O'Shea, Dermot O'Connor, sort of like the guy, Kevin McLaughlin, but they're feeding off the energy of the young guys. And so really what I wish for the lads is that they bring all that energy and awareness and mentality to the game, and that they play like they did for the last really half. That level, I think, is probably required for maybe 60 minutes against Dublin, and the remaining 10 that you're holding the line. And that would be my wish for the lads, that they're able to play at that really, really high level. And as you go through the All-Ireland series, you find each game you play, the level is better, the player you're marking is better, and it almost becomes a psychological test. And I really think the work they've done is exceptional.
Absolutely. I think that's some really great advice, and I really do. I'd love to see Mayo beat Dublin myself now at the weekend. I think they're everyone that isn't from Mayo's second favourite team anyway. And Dermot, I suppose on the other side of the card, then you've got Kerry against Tyrone on Sunday. Who do you think is going to come out on top in that side of the card?
Well, that's a very interesting one, because when there's a change in management, and Brian Dooher, I remember Brian, he was a superb player in UCD, a little bit after my time, but a fine player. And it's always interesting where a new energy sometimes comes with management, particularly, and my impression is that Brian and his team have really sort of fine-tuned what was already there. And to me, that the victory over Monaghan, I mean, that was a really strong Monaghan team, and they seem to get their tactics right. And of course, at this level, tactics and matchups are just so critical. So it's going to be very interesting. Tyrone, I suppose, have been known as having really strong defensive formations over the last 15 years under Mickey Hart. So one of the questions is, and really up front too, maybe we've underestimated them in terms of their attacking play. And of course, this Kerry team, we know they can score a lot, but from time to time, teams have put a lot of scores up on them. So Tyrone might be quietly confident. They're sort of under the radar at the moment. Everybody's talking about the way Kerry demolished Cork, and there's almost the assumption that Kerry are going to be in the final. And so just watch the space. I think it will be a very interesting game, and it's amazing, to the way Tyrone have kept again that standard over the last 15 years. And we have the question about Dublin. The talk in Dublin is, have Dublin just not reached their normal level? So the big question we're asking in Dublin, everyone is asking, is this a team that's in a natural sort of just sense of transition because of retirements and new management? Or is it a team that still has a lot of good performances in it? So we really won't find that out until next Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. We won't. And I suppose, Dermot, will you be able to take a break during that cycle to watch the matches? Is I suppose, one of my final questions for you.
Well, coincidence is a great thing. But when I planned this, I didn't realise, I knew Mayo had the possibility of being in an All-Ireland semi-final, but I didn't know precisely the time. Everything has worked out. I can assure you, I didn't ring headquarters, but we're starting our cycle at 8:30 in the morning. We're going around. Really, it's the This Is Your Life of the Flanagans, Kilmavee, Turin, where my grandparents taught, Ahamore, my father's home place, Ballyhonus, where my mother and father met, Eastern Gales. The afternoon is a shorter session, Kilshima, Swinford, Charlestown, Carracastle. We're finishing around 3:30, and everyone will get back and settled in for the game at 6 p.m. It could not be a better timing. So a big day for Mayo, a big day for our cycle, day one for the people of Mayo and the Mayo Oncology Unit. That's the battlefield of life. And at 6 p.m, we'll have the battlefield of sport, and we'll be all there cheering on.
Absolutely spot on, Dermot. So Dermot, I suppose I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on this episode of the Connolly Motor Group Podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and all the best for the Mayo Oncology Unit cycle, which is taking place at the weekend. If anyone would like to donate, check out the GoFundMe. We've got it all over the Connolly Motor Group Facebook page. You've got your own Facebook page as well, and you can register as well on Event Master, isn't it? To sign up for the cycle yourself.
Or if you go into cycleireland.ie and look for a cycle for Mayo Oncology Unit. And just to say to the Connolly Motor Group, everyone has been so enthusiastic, Kevin and everyone involved in the staff. And so just on the Tuesday, we'll be cycling around the Ballina area, the 7 or 8 clubs, starting in Bunnyconlon, the Stephen Ardnary, Sarsfields, Ballina, Stephenites, Arda, Morgana, Kilfine, Killala. But we will be passing by the Connolly Motor showrooms on the Tuesday. We'll have a big beep and a big cheer as we head off on our way, and just to thank everyone for their support.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. I must see, can I get up to Ballinano myself and wave you on from the showroom there? So, Dermot, very best of luck. I no doubt you'll absolutely have an amazing time and raise some vital funds for the Mayo Oncology Unit. So, well done, and thanks again.
Thank you very much, Denny.